higher education is in a pretty vulnerable state right now with the downsizing of the Department of Education, pausing of lots of different kinds of federal grants, and we're out there trying to push back.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
The United Campus Workers of America is a division of the Communication Workers of America, UCWCWA, and they are organizing. They're organizing campus workers, right? United Campus Workers organizing campus workers, right? That makes sense. And they have several locals or several chapters across the state of Alabama. And the United Campus Workers is a really cool project because they are organizing campus workers even in places where there are not official structures for collective bargaining, right? Many public sector workers in states across the country do not have the right, quote unquote, to collective bargaining. There is no formal process for elections and there's no mandate on the employer to bargain collectively. And in some cases, there's even a prohibition on public sector employers from bargaining collectively with their employees. But workers can still organize. Obviously, we have a First Amendment freedom of association in this country while it lasts. And this is how unions started, actually. People were organizing unions while it was expressly illegal to do so. People were carrying union cards in their back pockets while you could be arrested for having such a thing on your person, right? And so it's obviously not that dire on college campuses, but in many cases, like I said, they don't have the right to collective bargaining. And so they are organizing outside of that process. They are just declaring themselves to be a union, and they are moving forward thusly, right? They are fighting for higher wages. They are fighting for better benefits. They're fighting for better working conditions, whether or not they are recognized by their administration. We have a voicemail from a United Campus Workers member in Alabama, Lance, at Jacksonville State University, who they actually had a really great win at the university. I think it was just last year when they got the university to raise their minimum wage by something like 10 to 15%. And again, this is without a formal election. This is without recognition of their union by management. This was without formal collective bargaining. This is just good old-fashioned pressure tactics and direct action that has got the goods for workers at Jacksonville State University here in the state of Alabama, and they're fighting for more. Here's Lance talking about what the campus workers were up to in Alabama and across the country last week.
Hey, Adam. Hey, Jacob. This is Lance Inglerson. I'm a co-chair at United Campus Workers Local 3821, the campus co-chair at Jacksonville State University. Just calling to let your listeners know about a great event we had this past Thursday, April the 17th. It was a day of action across public higher education institutions across the United States. Over 150 events that were happening in person, others that were happening online, including at the University of Alabama. Auburn University had done theirs the week before. Just a great way to mobilize solidarity around. All three of our campuses are working on living wage campaigns for workers, all with campus-specific demands. But just a great show of energy and support. We brought in some new members and really, I think, did a good job of raising more awareness around everything that's going on. Public higher education is in a pretty vulnerable state right now with the closures to the downsizing of the Department of Education, the pausing of lots of different kinds of federal grants, like from the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, and we're out there trying to work to push back against a lot of these cuts and other kinds of things that are going on. So just wanted to let listeners know solidarity. And hope you all have a great show. Thanks.
Thanks for the voicemail, Lance. Really appreciate it. If you have any union updates that you would like us to know, particularly if you are in the South, we would love to hear it. Leave us a voicemail at any time at 844-899-TVLR. That's 844-899-8857. Adam, you were down there with Lance last week. Talk to us some more about the event.
Sure, yeah. It was a Solidarity at the Square, and it was downtown in Jacksonville. Very pretty little downtown. And there was a nice area in the square where we got to post up, and they were there throughout the day with signs, with music, and had a tent, and folks could stop by from the community, folks who were, coming from campus, because it was just, a short little walk from campus. So it was a great community solidarity kind of event. I got a chance to go down there for a little while and, show my support, because I, like Jacob, been really impressed with United Campus Workers. To stick to the Jacksonville event first, I will say that we got a lot of honks, and I had no middle fingers. Nobody flipped me off. And so that is always a good sign waving action when you get more honks than middle fingers. But got a lot of support from the community, got a chance to meet some new people out there in Calhoun County in that area who were doing great work in the community. And so that was a great connection. Met some people that I already knew through Alabama Rise and through other organizations.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
So just a great opportunity to network and connect people, all in the name of worker solidarity. These workers are fighting for living wages, and as Lance mentioned, in really tough conditions nationally when it comes to higher education. So it was a National Day of Action. As Lance mentioned, the chapter down at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa also had a rally for a living wage, and just want to share a couple of things about that. So members of the UA chapter of the United Campus Workers Southeast are calling for a flat $5,000 cost of living adjustment for all workers and an increase in the hourly minimum wage to $20 to account for years of inflation. Pay isn't the only issue that concerns UCW members. The call for UA to take seriously its investment in its employees is part of a larger call to reinvest in higher education instead of devaluing it with cuts to the arts and sciences and attacks on academic freedom. So they rallied to demand that the university defend academic freedom and resist increasing government pressures to determine how and what they teach. They stood in support of legal action taken by university faculty against the implementation of SB 129. That's the bill that you may remember from last year that was passed that formally banned DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, in our public institutions here in Alabama. So the members in Tuscaloosa were also demanding that the university make it clear it will not collaborate with efforts to shape research through punitive actions against institutions and academics. They were demanding the university commit to supporting international students in a time of grave uncertainty and fear by allocating resources for legal support as well as stipends for students unable to safely travel or work over the summer. So really appreciated the workers down there in Tuscaloosa doing that rally, appreciated the workers at Jacksonville State. And as Lance mentioned, Auburn had some actions last week. And I do want to point out that they are growing. So United Campus Workers really got it kicked off in Tennessee. They have a strong presence there in Tennessee. But they have grown throughout the South and even outside the South, from what I hear. But I will say that they are organizing on campuses across the state of Alabama and across the Southeast. So if you are listening and you work at a public college or university, or someone who does, you have a union. They have a union. And that's important to know, because a lot of folks who work at these public colleges and universities think that because they don't have the legal right to collective bargaining, because they don't have the legal right to strike, as other workers do, in the private sector or in other states at public colleges and other public sector jobs, because they don't have these legal rights on paper that, they can't unionize or they can't have a union, they can't belong to a union. I've heard that for years throughout my time in the movement. I just saw, a poor brother in another state making that comment on Facebook this morning in an education group. He said, I'm in Georgia, I can't unionize. And the truth is, when two or more workers gather in the name of building power for themselves and their coworkers, that's a union, right? If you act collectively as an organization, you can build power and you can be a union. Whether or not your employer recognizes it, whether or not the government recognizes it, whether or not you can ever obtain a collective bargaining agreement, the point is the power, the collective organization, the collective action you can take together to win for yourself and for your coworkers and ultimately for the entire community. So I have a lot of respect for the folks in United Campus Workers. They have been very, very busy. They have been growing over the years. They've been doing events like this, Solidarity at the Square, like the rally at UA, to connect with folks. I know last year when the Poor People's Campaign had their big march in Montgomery, I ran into a lot of members of UCW, and it was really great to see that, to see them as part of a broader movement. And so when I think about the labor movement in Alabama and where we're at right now and where some of the energy is at, that definitely comes to mind, the United Campus Workers. I think we'll be seeing more public chapters soon. I know that they are building their network at various other institutions. And, again, if folks who work at these colleges and universities, let them know they have a choice, they have an option, they have the ability to get plugged in to a union, CWA, Communications Workers of America, which I would argue also, in terms of where the energy's at in Alabama's labor movement, we've seen a lot of energy from CWA with success at Wells Fargo, in Anniston, success in Anniston with the New Flyer campaign, which was an IUE CWA effort. And we've seen my local CWA 3908 add some retail shops, as well as Alabama Arise Staff Union, right? So a lot of wins for CWA, a lot of momentum for CWA, and shout out again to Lance. I've gotten the pleasure to know Lance a little bit through my time in the movement these last couple of years, and I'm just really impressed with him and his coworkers, and the passion they have, the dedication they have. That's one thing I love about doing what I do and being part of the labor movement is you get to meet a lot of really great people, a lot of just, leaders out here in the working class who are fighting, to make life better for themselves and their families, their coworkers, their community. And I really commend them and commend all the folks who are organizing, whatever job you have, or, whether you're public sector, private sector, whatever kind of institution you work for, if you're organizing with your coworkers, you are to be commended because you're doing the right thing. It's the way we build power for ourselves and make our lives better.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.